All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 261 of the Restoring Rapport podcast. We're super excited for the content we got planned out for you guys today. As always, this is a podcast for young believers who are pursuing the goal of marriage and family and trying to get married as young as possible in a healthy way. I'm your host, Seth Hensley. I come on twice a week, every week on Thursday and Sunday to discuss not only the benefits of getting married young, but I attempt to equip and encourage you in your pursuit of that goal. And today we are going to be reviewing a video by Dr. John Delony. I guess he had someone call into his show. And the title of this video is I'm 30 and have never dated. What am I doing wrong? And today I just want to kind of talk about, just a couple things. We're going to address the question, if I'm 30 and I have never met anyone, am I doing something wrong? So number one, are you doing something wrong if you're 30 and you've never met someone? We're going to address, the things that could potentially go wrong if you're finding yourself in that situation and don't want to be in that situation. And we're just going to kind of talk about age and getting married and compare those things, talk about what the best age is to get married if there is one. And it's kind of a deep topic. Everybody has very personal opinions on this. So it's not that I'm, what's the word? It's not that I'm being super dogmatic here. If you have a different take on me than me, please reach out and let me know what it is. But for me personally, I have a very strong opinion on this just because this is an issue that has affected my life quite closely. And so I do want to share my experience for the benefit of those who are behind me who have a similar experience to myself, because I think this will help them. I'm making this show for people who have had my life story and who are a couple of years behind me and who are moving towards the goal of marriage. And so really excited for this, though. I've never actually reviewed anything by John Delani. Something interesting about him, though, is my wife loves listening to his show. Like, I think that's one of the most, right now, that's currently the podcast she's listening to more than anything else is his work. He'll have people come in, or call in, and asking for therapy advice and stuff. Really interesting guy. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. I'm excited to see what he says.
Let's go to Madeline, back to Kansas City. We're going to Kansas City, but on the Missouri side. What's up, Madeline?
Yes. Hey, how are you?
You're like, don't ever loop me in with Kansas.
Absolutely not.
People think the Civil War is going to be between New York and LA. It's super not. It's going to be Missouri versus Kansas. That's where it's going to start.
Oh, 100%.
So,
Thanks for having me.
listen, don't fight Kansas. They're great. Love Kansas. All right, so what's up?
So I'm calling today because I was just curious. Navigating dating in 2022, how do you balance contentment and singleness while longing for a life partner?
I'm an old married guy. I don't know.
I know.
You tell me.
So I'm almost 30 years old,
Okay.
and I've never dated.
What? Hey, let me stop you. How come?
It's just never presented itself. So,
No. Why haven't you dated?
So I honestly have never been asked, but something I've struggled with is reaching out and trying to find connection, but often being met with rejection or ghosting. So it's like trying to initiate that just to even have basic connection and not even with the intent of like, I'm going to marry you, but
Okay, guys. So far, this is from the woman's perspective. She's the one who called in. She's almost 30. Her question was how to balance contentedness and not wanting to be single, basically. And she's single and has never been asked, she said, to date, which I find shocking. I mean, I feel like most people don't find themselves in that position, thankfully, most women, but golly, to never have been asked, I think that's a problem. And I don't know. I'm not even going to talk about like if this woman is not putting herself out there and has no male acquaintances or prospects in her life who could ask her out. Like she may be, I don't know if she's reclusive or something like that, but if she's actually doing everything she's supposed to be doing and nobody's asked her out, I would say that's a shortcoming on the men's end for sure too. And again, we are creating kind of a world where men are less incentivized to, put themselves through the uncomfortable situation of asking someone out, because they can just go home and look at porn and, never go through any of the difficulties of a actual real relationship with a woman, sadly. And so I don't know, I find that to be a sad situation all around. So she says she's almost 30. She's never been in a relationship, but specifically the reason she gave why she's never been in a relationship when he asked was that she's never been asked. So I don't know if that means she's never been on a date or if she's never been asked to be in a committed relationship, because there's definitely a difference there. But she's kind of asking, her question wasn't, how do I get more date opportunities or prospects as far as matrimony goes? Her question was how to balance being content and not wanting to be single. That's as close as that's how I remember her question anyway. And to me, I would just like to share my experience on that. I was not content when I was single at all. I had a yearning to be married. And I think that's a totally healthy yearning. I think that's just an indicator of how God has designed you to live. If God has designed you to be single, I don't think that it's going to be something that you have to basically, live in, oftentimes in a state of sin. I think that if God's called you to be single, it's going to be a possible road that you can live in and experience fullness of life and a lack of sin in your life. And so that's what I would say to that. But I just want to make sure you guys understand that I don't think not being content in your singleness season is wrong. I think it's totally fine and normal to yearn for something, again, that you're not currently experiencing, but that you were made for. C.S. Lewis has a great quote, and I probably am going to butcher it here, but he says something to the extent of, if you find in your heart a desire that nothing in the world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that you are made for another world, end quote. And of course, he's talking about the kingdom of heaven and your life here on earth. But another good allegory for that saying would be the kingdom of singleness. If you find in yourself, in your season of singleness, a desire that singleness cannot satisfy, the most probable explanation is that you are made for a different world that is marriage. And I think that is kind of how it is for a lot of people. At least I know a lot of people who seem to have that story. But I don't want you to feel bad for not being content as a single person for the rest of your life. I mean, Scripture is very clear that it is not good for man to be alone, that you are designed to have a helper that is fit for you, and that is he who finds a wife finds a good thing. There's just all kinds of scriptural reasons why getting married is a good idea. Getting married is the way to walk, I would say, the most sexually upright life for 99% of people. And so I don't think most people are capable of walking a sexually upright life if they're not married. And so there are lots of good reasons to get married. And so you don't need to feel bad for wanting to be married and not wanting to be single, because there are many, 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 many good reasons to want to be married and not single. So I don't think I hope she doesn't feel bad about that. And I hope she's not trying to basically live content in a way that God has not designed her to live, if that makes sense. Discontentment can actually be a good thing if it gets you off of your passive butt and into the season that God has called you to live in, and into the new life and the new purpose that God has actually called you to move into. You can stay in a state of stagnation forever and say that you're being content, but what you're really doing is, not putting in the work to move where God's called you to move. And so I would say that she doesn't need to feel bad about not being content. That's not a bad thing. So let's continue to see what he says, though.
Just trying to, become friends and be connected and have those relationships, but it has just been a dead end. And I am just kind of in a rut and kind of lost. So I need some guidance.
Yeah. I think beneath you're smiling while you're talking because that's what you do. I can hear it in you.
Yeah, it's
like you got this thing duct taped together.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So let me get behind the people just ghost me, behind the nobody's ever asked me, beneath all of that. Somebody told Madeline that Madeline's not worth hanging out with. Madeline's not beautiful enough that anyone would ever kiss her. Nobody will find Madeline this, or nobody will find Matt. Here's what I'm getting at. I see young kids that maniacally insert themselves into groups of people that they were not invited to because they're just reckless. They don't have any concept that they might not be valued or wanted.
To get started in data analytics.
That's actually a good point. While he plays this ad, I will talk about that. There is such a thing as confidence helping your case when it comes to finding a partner. The more confident people are the ones who are able to find partners more, not even necessarily because confidence is attractive, but because, like he said, if you have the reckless confidence to just insert yourself into these different social groups without worrying, and the worry of not being good enough or not being perceived as attractive in those social groups doesn't keep you from entering them, then you're going to have way better chances of finding somebody because you're actually entering the social groups. What I think happens a lot is we're paralyzed by our fear of rejection or fear of not being good enough or not measuring up to some perceived standard, that we don't take the step to actually put ourselves in situations that are conducive to finding a partner. For example, if you only work in a retirement home and you only see your family when you're at home and you never go out and do anything, the only people you're around are people who are way older than you or who are in your direct family, and you're never in contact with anyone who's going to be a marriage prospect for you. And so if you live a life like that, you've got to find a way to get out and meet people, whether that be virtually or whether that be in person. I don't think it really matters, but you've got to have a life where you're in association with people who are of a similar season to you and of a similar mind to you, who are also looking to get married. Because if you're not, there's nobody even that you're meeting who could be a prospect for you. Nobody's asking you because they're not there. In other words, you've got to go find where those like-minded people are. And I think that's when you're going to experience some breakthrough. But let's see kind of what John says. He's making this as kind of a therapist. He's making this sort of a self-esteem thing, and maybe he's going to talk about her confidence and how that's keeping her living in fear and not going out there enough. And so I don't know exactly what he's going to say, but that's going to be my guess. Let's see what he says.
And then I listen to you. You already have made me laugh. You're super articulate. You're able to identify what you're going through and cover it up. Like, you're clearly brilliant. How do you get there, but you are missing the people don't want me around?
Right.
Where does that come from?
I don't know. I guess I've done some reflecting recently because I'm a huge fan of yours. I'm reading through your book currently. I'm almost finished with it, and it's just it's phenomenal. But I've just kind of been soaking up, your stuff like a sponge and just trying to apply that. And I think reflecting back, like, I had kind of an uneasy childhood as far as, like, I have a phenomenal family, great support system. But school age years, I struggled with weight. I still struggle with it a little bit. But that's always kind of been a piece, I guess, in it. And I don't know. I had a friend group.
Is your struggle with appearance something that's been noted on you, or is that something that you bring to a group or bring to another person?
It's something I just kind of keep inward. I don't really like to reflect it outward, but I guess maybe it does. I'm not sure.
Let me say it this way. I'll give you an example from my life, okay? I dated somebody when I was in high school, somebody that I was madly, wildly in love with. For all a 16-year-old or 18-year-old, I don't remember how old I was. Could be in love, right? I don't know what that meant. But I was. And I'll never forget one time we were hanging out and we were holding hands, and then she loosened up her hand and ran it up the inside of my arm and was holding the inside of my arm. That meant we were like we're really close to babies, right? I mean, like, we're in love now, right?
Right.
And she looked up at me and said, "You would be so cute." And remember back when I was in school, cute meant smoking hot, right? She was like, "You would be so cute if your teeth weren't so yellow." And so that was years ago. That was a little bitty thing. To this day, I still smile with my mouth shut.
That's interesting. So basically, she showed there in that last conversation that she had some, she was perceiving herself as overweight and had some weight struggles, I believe was how she put it. And his next question was, are those perceived weight struggles that you've noticed about yourself and you're feeling unhealthy and you're noticing the consequences of perhaps an eating habit that you don't want to keep around for the rest of your life? Or are you taking on something that somebody said from years ago that wasn't, very tasteful and making that a part of how you see yourself? And I think there is a difference there. If in the first scenario, if she's fine, and again, guys, I'm really talking to you 18 to 24-year-old men who are trying to get married here, not this woman. But if you're seeing yourself as unhealthy in any area, let's fill in the blank, physically, if you're seeing yourself as overweight and you're realizing, I have not taking care of my body in the way that I should, I'm not eating the way that I should, I'm not being active in the way that I should, that could be an indication that you actually need to do something about that. Like, that could be a totally valid thing, where you need to get off your butt and start moving around, start eating more protein, start, watching calorie intake or something like that. I don't care what you do, just like make a conscious effort and discipline yourself to be healthier, because that's going to make you a more attractive spouse to someone. I think that's something you need to have worked on. You can't just be not taking care of yourself and expecting somebody to be attracted to you. That's not how that works. If you don't brush your teeth, if you don't take care of yourself, if your hair's a mess and ratty, and if you smell bad and you don't take care of yourself, you don't move at all, you're not going to be attractive to someone looking to have a long-term life with you for many reasons. Number one, it shows that you're probably not going to live very long. You're probably going to die before her and leave her alone. That's what I would be worried about. There are lots of reasons why I would not date an unhealthy woman. And number one, she's going to leave me. And it's not going to be through a choice she made. She's going to die, and I'm not going to have my partner into my late years of life. In all likelihood anyway. And so number two, you're not able to care for children that could come from the union if you're unhealthy, guys. If you're an unhealthy man, it's harder for you to care for your wife, for your children, for her, maybe perhaps her parents, perhaps your parents when they get older. You've got to be physically in a condition where you can look after and care for the people under you. That is very important. The people who need you need to know that they're in good hands. And if you can't give them that, if you can't give them good hands to hold them, they're not probably going to want to enter a relationship with you. And so if you don't feel like you're in a state where you're healthy enough to get married, I'm not going to tell you you're good as you are. I'm not going to pat you on the back and say, you're fine, you're just the right weight. Weight is just a number. No, I'm going to say, hey, you need to push yourself to get to a healthy place, and I think that will do nothing but help your cause as far as finding prospects. And again, if you're in the second camp, in the camp where people have told you things, in the example John Delani gave of, hey, you would look good if your teeth were less yellow, or you would look good if you were 2 inches taller, or you would look good if you were 2 inches shorter. And then you start either slouching or wearing tall shoes or doing things like that, just because somebody said something to you, an offhand, unkind remark, you're allowing other people. That's almost like fear of man. You're almost like allowing what other people think of you to, and being afraid of not measuring up to what they want to kind of control your life. And there's kind of definitely a balance there. There is such a thing as being healthy, and that's something you should strive for and be consciously striving for, and actually honestly evaluate in your life. Am I pursuing health right now, or am I just taking the road of ease? So ask yourself that question. Am I pursuing the road of health right now, making myself strong and ready to be a man that people can lean on, particularly my wife, or am I taking the easy road as a coping mechanism or whatever? And then if you answer that question, I am striving to be healthy, then maybe, and you're still feeling like you're not enough, then maybe ask yourself the question, am I allowing the fear of man, what other people have said and think about me, to control and not allow myself to have a good self-esteem? Those are some good questions. Let's see kind of what he says here. I actually am not sure if Dr. John Delani is a believer or not. I do think he gives therapy and sort of counseling from a secular perspective. He's on the Dave Ramsey show, though, so there's definitely a lot of Christian values in sort of what he says, but I would be curious to know a little bit more about him. If you know more about Dr. John Delani, or perhaps you've listened to him more than I have, which I haven't listened to him at all. I just listened to my wife listening to him. We listened to him together in the car and things like that. I'll also hear her playing him just while we're in the house, even if we hadn't consciously sat down to listen to the podcast together. And if you know about him more than I do, reach out and let me know, because I'd be curious.
Mm-hmm.
I take pictures for a living, right? I'm being videoed right now, and I smile with my mouth shut. And more importantly, I'm very awkward in person. And my wife pointed this out to me a few times over our years together. She said, I'll walk into a situation and then I'll lean back. And I mumble because I keep my mouth closed all the time. But I talk so much that I just, in this mumbling stream of Here's the thing. All of that is my insecurity from a 16-year-old girlfriend. Mm-hmm. In reality, I got yellow teeth. They're not sparkly white like my friend Rachel, my friend George. Like they open their mouth and it's blinding, right? I don't have that. I'm not that.
Right.
And I have taken my insecurity in that area and I just throw it like a cast net over everybody in my vicinity. And so I bring my insecurity to other people. And what my wife has told me is it's unnerving because people see you, John, they see me and they think that guy's cool. That guy does this. He's got a good job. He's like this. Why is he so weird around me? It must be me.
Mm-hmm.
And then they back up because they don't want to be the weird person.
Mm.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it might not be you, the person who thinks that they don't look right or that they're not beautiful enough. And it might be, she acts super weird around me and I think she's pretty rad, or she's hilarious, or I think she's beautiful, but I feel weird around her. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference between walking into a situation and saying, I'm freaking Madeline from Missouri. I deserve to be in every space I walk into. And if you don't want to be in that space with my big smile and my whatever I look like, then you are free to go. And that's on you, not on me. And that's a completely different composite than I have a crush on you and I want to date you, but I know that I'm not as pretty as I think I could be for you. And so I'm just going to try to get really small. See how different that is?
Can I get started?
A couple things about what he said. I think he's given a great, help to people who are insecure based on what other people have said to them in the past. I think that's exactly what probably, maybe if this woman has that story, that's what she needs to hear. But for you guys who are, I also don't want to be a part of this movement that just kind of lulls us into passivity and says, yeah, whatever weight you are is great. Whatever weight you are is fine. It's like, no, if you're eating 5 cheeseburgers a day and no healthy food, you're not working out or exercising or anything, that's not healthy. You're going to die sooner. You're going to look bad. You're going to smell bad. You're not taking care of yourself. And so instead of just continuing to do that and patting yourself on the back and letting other people pat you on the back, you need to draw a line in the sand and say, no, I'm not going to let myself do that. I know that's the easy road. But for the sake of the joy set before me, for the sake of having a woman who sees me as somebody who's capable of taking care of her, I'm going to do the hard thing. And I'm going to go out and walk. I'm going to go out and bike. I'm going to go out and lift weights. I'm going to go out and be active, play a sport. I'm going to go out and do calisthenics. I'm going to go out and do yoga. I'm going to go out and do capoeira. I'm going to go out and do something with my body to make me in better shape than I am now so that I can take care of people who need me physically. And so a lot of young men, I think, are just being, and I'm not shaming people who find themselves in a situation where they're realizing, hey, I'm not healthy. I'm saying good for you for realizing that. Now go do something about it. You know, you have the power to do that. Nobody else has the power to do that. You have the power to do that. And you know, there are wonderful rewards that come with putting in the effort to be healthy. And so definitely don't let somebody steal from you and rob you of those good rewards that come with being healthy, because they're saying that you're just the way that you should be and you're just the way that you are, and that's a great thing, you know? Because think of it this way: if nothing were to change about the current state of your health, for 50 years, for the rest of your life, would you be happy with the fruit of that? Would you be happy with the fruit of your current health for the rest of your life? So let's say you have an unhealthy eating habit. You have unhealthy eating habits. You don't work out. You don't move. You don't do anything with your body. You're overweight. You see yourself as overweight. Let's say you see yourself as overweight, and you're seeing that as a problem that impedes your ability to win the affection of a woman. Are you content living the way you are if the fruit of those life choices never changes, if you never win the affection of a woman because of your eating? Are you content with that? Because most guys, I would think, would answer, no, I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with how I'm living right now. And what do I need to do to get better? That's a great question. That's a great question. What can you do to get better, man? And this doesn't just apply to weight. Let's say there's another life struggle you're having with. Let's say your ability to converse with someone and bond with someone and be vulnerable with someone and have intelligent conversation with someone is not very good, and you're not content with your ability to articulate yourself and interact with women. Let's ask yourself the question. If my ability as a conversationalist stays the way it is, am I content with the fruit my life is bearing in 50 years? And I think that's a good question to ask yourself, because a lot of times it will sober you up and make you realize, hey, I need to be better. I need to be better at fill in the blank in order to get the reward that I'm wanting. Because just wanting the woman, just wanting the family, just wanting the children, just wanting the nice life that you've envisioned for yourself is not enough to actually get it. You have to actually take steps that could be really hard to get there. And so, and I just want to encourage you. I don't want to be sounding like a broken record on, how hard it is to get married and have a family, but I'm saying you need to, you can do this, and it is possible. And that's why you need to take the first step so that you're actually moving in that direction and not staying stagnant where you are. And so I love what he's saying. It's kind of a balance, guys. It really is. It's like at some point you could be being too hard on yourself. That is possible. You could be, setting a standard for yourself that is not attainable. But I think more likely what we do as young men who are moving towards the goal of marriage and family is we get lulled into a state of passivity. And we get too comfortable with the way we are and too disincentivized to pursue what we could be for our future wife and children. And I think that is the most dangerous thing that we can fall into. And so be very careful in considering, guys. Ask yourself, if my life was to stay the exact way that it is now, am I content with the fruit of those choices in 50 years? Am I content with the fruit of those choices in 60, 70 years? When I'm dying, am I going to look back, having lived this way for my entire life, and be happy that I lived that way? And I think that's a great question to ask yourself. And you can do this. You can get healthier. Whatever your problem was in the example I gave of being a good conversationalist, you can get better at that. Just practice talking to people, interview people, write. Do some writing. That will help you. Writing, interviewing people, talking to people, engaging in social situations where you're playing a role and you can learn how to play that role well. That's going to be how you get better. If you're looking to get healthier, watch your calories. Make sure you're challenging and pushing your body in whatever capacity that is, whatever area, muscle group that you're after. Push yourself in that capacity, and you'll get better. It's absolutely possible. It's absolutely attainable. Let's continue, though, to see what John Delani has to say here.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you've just articulated, I think, a lot of emotions and like a little hamster wheel of thoughts in my mind.
So the best way off the hamster wheel is not more thinking, it's doing.
Right.
And that's the worst. That's the worst.
Yes.
Right. So I'll tell you this story, and then we can try to come up with a solution or a couple of solutions.
Okay.
We can't solve it. It would be dishonest and disingenuous of me to be like, all right, here's how you date in the 21st century. I don't know.
Right.
Here's what I do know. A buddy of mine got divorced a few years ago, and we were out to lunch, and I was kind of living vicariously through him. I was like, all right, dude, you're dating again. Like, what's it like? And I'll never forget, we were like in some burger joint in Texas, and he sets his food down, and he wipes his mouth off, and he leaned in across the table, and he said, "I don't care how bad it gets at your house, man. Never, 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 never break up. You got to stay together, man.
Yeah.
This is crazy out here." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He
Right.
goes, "It's insane. Everybody's nuts." And he went on to explain, like, remember when you would meet somebody like at church or at a bar or something, and you'd say hi and get their number? Now they call the police if you do that. He goes,
Exactly.
it's stalking. You can't do that. You have to follow them on the internets for a while. And anyway, he just is like a whole new planet opened up. So my first thought is, to date in the 21st century, you should probably take an online programming class. Maybe that would help, like, interact with
Right.
the internets. I don't know.
Okay, I do have some really cool. I'm really excited about this because I do have something, and this is actually how I found my wife. This is a great way to find a spouse in the 21st century using the tools that are available to you that nobody else has had before. And the way I would recommend is called social media networking. And it's not what you think. Dating apps I wouldn't recommend them. They don't work very much. People are on there looking for different things anyway, and it's not as personal, and you don't know the people that you're getting involved with. There's a lot of problems with them. A lot of times people can't even see your profile picture, and women probably aren't going to go out on a date with somebody they can't even see. There are even more problems with it. I mean, women swipe right on like 8% of the guys they come across. It might have been even less than that. It might have been 3. I can't remember. It's an extremely small percentage. Guys swipe right on 50. So you're going to be swiping right on a lot more girls than are swiping on you. And so they just don't work well. And oftentimes even the girls who are swiping right on you are not looking for, a long-term committed relationship, i.e. marriage. They're probably looking for a hookup or a casual dating summer fling or something like that. And so you've just got to be really careful with those. They've worked for some people. I know they've worked for, but that's not the best way that worked for me. So if you're like me, here's what I would do. I would go onto your Facebook friends list right now. Everyone has a Facebook. If you don't have a Facebook or an Instagram or some sort of social media apps, I would get those ASAP. You're going to need one of those. And then you go on there and you build, if you don't have one, then you build your social network, all the people that you need to follow and become friends with. And then if you already have those accounts, which I'm sure you do, everyone has those who's our age now for a good reason, because they provide you a lot of value in this area, is you go on there and you go through your friends list. They're ordered alphabetically. You start in the A's, you start at the very top. You look through your whole friends list and ask yourself, who are these people? Who are the people on here that I trust most and who I have a relationship with and I can talk to about potentially setting me up on a date? And you go through all of those people, and then you click on the first person in that list. Start alphabetically so you don't lose your place. You go to their friends list. Hopefully it's public. Sometimes you'll run into problems with people keeping their friends list private, and then there's nothing I can do for you here. This won't work with that person. But if their friends list is public, you go through all their friends and you look for any woman who is your age, a believer, and looking to get married that you find attractive, and you message your mutual friend with her and say, "Hey, I noticed you're friends with this person, this girl that I thought was attractive on Facebook, and I was wondering if you knew if she was looking for a relationship or if she just wasn't doing that kind of thing right now. If you're aware of kind of where she's at on that, let me know. Thanks so much. Have a great day." That mutual friend you have with the woman you're interested in is going to reach back to you and say, "Hey, man, I think you're great," which again is why you need to pick people that you have a great connection with and who respect you and who love you and who think you're awesome. And then they're going to say, "Hey, I think you're great. I would love to set you up on a date with this person. Let me look into that and see if she is interested or is looking to do that kind of thing right now." And then that person is going to go to that woman, that mutual friend that you have, and say, "Hey, there's a guy I know. He's awesome." And your mutual friend is going to sing your praises for 15 minutes. And they're going to say, "He's so awesome in all these different ways." You're basically going to get your whole like reel of your life, all the good stuff given to this woman through your mutual friend in 5 minutes. So that person is going to go to this woman and just praise you to the skies and say, "Hey, I have this awesome friend. Anyway, that awesome friend, he's actually interested in knowing if you're looking to date now or not." And if she says no, then you never, it kind of takes away a lot of the rejection, the risk of rejection, because she doesn't actually, and it makes it easier on her too, because sometimes women have a hard time turning a guy down. Like, let's just say she's not attracted to the guy, and she's going to be, I mean, if he asks her out to her face, it's much harder for her to turn him down. And so often those women have to end up resorting to lying or being, very hurtful or blunt or whatever, anyway, in a way that makes them uncomfortable in order to turn that man down. And in this situation, she just has to say to your mutual friend, "Oh no, thanks so much," or "Thanks so much, I'm not really interested in that right now." And then your friend goes, "No worries at all," and then that's where the conversation will end. If she is interested, she'll say, "Hey, can I see a picture of him? What's his name?" Your mutual friend will then give your name to this woman, and she will go online and she will look at your profile. Please make sure you're presenting yourself in an awesome way on social media. That's why this is incredibly important. Make sure you're presenting yourself as well as you possibly can. If you want some tips on how to do that, visit Courtney Ryan's YouTube channel. She'll talk a lot about that, how to present yourself as a desirable, strong character man on the internet. Make sure you're doing that. And so she's going to go use the name that your friend gave and look for you online, and she's going to find things, and she's going to see pictures of you, see if she thinks you're attractive. She's going to see your worldview. If you have I would put your religious beliefs in there. Say, "I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. I'm a Christian." Make sure that's clear so that she knows where you are on that, because that's a big deal. At least we think on this show, that's a big deal. That's what I believe. And so you're going to want to have that on there. You're going to want to have all the big things about you in your profile somehow. And so she's going to then say to your mutual friend, "Yes, I'm interested in you can give my number to him," or "Yes, tell him I am interested in dating right now," that kind of thing. And then your mutual friend will then let you know that. If she's not interested, if she sees your pictures and then isn't super interested, then she won't express interest to your mutual friend, and your mutual friend won't get back to you with a favorable response. And so you're just going to then know, okay, I can move on to the next. So then you go to your next trusted friend. You go through their friends list, find all the attractive women. You get the idea. Find all the women that you're attracted to who are a believer in Jesus Christ on their page, who seem to have a solid life and there's no glaring red flags. Ask your mutual friend about them. And then, you'll get set up that way. I promise you. You have access to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people online, and they're all people that you have a connection to via someone else. That's the beauty of this. You have a personal reference. You have somebody who can set the meeting up and make the date happen. You have somebody who can act as the go-between between you and this woman that you're interested in. And then the date will just magically happen that way. It's wonderful. I have not found a better way of meeting somebody online than that. If you have not tried this, guys, please, 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 I beg of you, if you're a young man and you're struggling to find, either the opportunity or the right circles to move in to find somebody today, or you're struggling to find a woman who's interested, or you're struggling to find a woman you like, or anything like that, please go try this. It is a method of finding a partner that addresses and solves every single one of those problems that you're running into. I promise, I've tried it from personal experience. This is how I found my wife. I really, really, really think it can help you. I believe in this method. I'm a believer in this working because that's what happened to me. I got married to an awesome, awesome woman who I love so much. I mean, I'm over the moon smitten with Lainey, and if you have any contact with me, in the way that we interact that I am just over the moon in love with my wife. Please try this. It works. It works. It works. If I had not discovered this method, I would still be single, and I would not have Lainey. I would not have my beautiful wife. And so I'm so passionate about this, guys. This method works. If you could take anything away from just this, listening to this podcast, if you've been listening for a long time or if you're brand new here, take that. Go try this method. If you need to rewind and listen to how to follow the steps again, please do so. I tried to lay it out as easy as I possibly could. I'm just brand new at actually communicating to people how I found my spouse in this way, so I may not have done it in the best way possible, but just rewind, listen to my instructions as many times as you need to in order for it to become clear, and then follow those instructions at, change or add things or do whatever it takes to make it unique to your situation, but follow the fundamental building blocks of this approach. And I really think you're going to come away with, if not your spouse, then at least a really good dating experience. I really do. So just try it. Just try it, man. I hope you guys have enjoyed listening to this episode, though. In conclusion, just to answer the question that I posed at the beginning and that the video posed at the beginning, it says, I'm 30 and I've never dated. What am I doing wrong? And am I doing something wrong? I would say that the answer obviously depends on a lot of things, but I would say if you're a man and you're 30 and you've never dated, it's because you haven't asked enough women to date and you haven't had the right approach to dating, and there is something wrong. Number one, because if you haven't been doing those things, you seem to be under the impression that marriage is not a goal worth pursuing, and that living with your partner as long as possible and being in communion and connection with your partner as long as possible is not something that is desirable, and that is a flawed worldview. And if you need to see some examples of that, you're probably just around people with poor marriages, and so you don't think marriage is a good thing and all this. So you don't consider it a goal worth pursuing if you haven't been putting in the work. If you have been putting in the work and it's not been working, there is probably a problem, not with your heart, but with your approach. And you need to find a different approach to how you're pursuing connections with these women. And so that's what I would advise. And again, try the approach that I've given you in this video. It worked for me better than anything. And so I hope you guys have enjoyed. Hope this episode has generated value for you. If it has, reach out and let me know through the link in the show notes. You can send me a personalized audio voice message. Give me thanks, questions, comments, feedback, and alternate perspective, your story, anything at all. I would love to hear from you. It would make me feel connected to you, and it would make this podcasting system two-way. You can also follow the Restoring Rapport podcast on Instagram and Facebook if you're interested in the content we post there as well. So thank you guys so much for listening today, and we will talk to you next time.